Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're here with Project Pitbike and this is part 2. Now in the last video I said we were going to change the rear suspension and I do have that on order. However, today we're going to be trying something a bit different. So obviously we swapped over the swing arm from the old frame onto the new frame. However, when I looked on Red Circles the other night, I saw that these old forks have actually come back for sale brand new. So the plan for today's video is putting everything back onto the old frame and then we're going to fit the brand new forks once they arrive, and so we're going to have the old swing arm with the old frame. This will actually lead us with the new frame and the new swing arm and these forks all together as well, which means we'll in effect have two bikes, especially once we get this engine into the second bike, which means we can make two bikes from one, which is what we're going to be doing in today's video. So we're going to strip down this frame and we're going to switch it all onto that frame, and then we're going to see what we've got left, and then in the next video we're going to be fitting the forks that arrive onto the new frame that's built up. A bit confusing, but you get used to it, don't worry. Anyway, just a quick update on the Kart, as it is just under a week now till the British Kart Championships. When I post this, hopefully by at least Wednesday, that will be literally the night before we leave. So just to show you, the Kart is fully ready now. We've got a new chain guard on, which is now red, and a quick grease one, which means we just got these little pins. Obviously the bodywork's here, and also in the last video we were removing the fuel tank stickers. Now we've got the new ones fitted, which means the whole car is pretty much red now apart from the frame. So the car is all ready now for the British Champs, and the next video you're seeing is on this at the final round at Wigan, I should say. Right, so here is the bike there. I can bring it out on the cart trolley, as it is quite hard to actually pull out due to the rear suspension. So what we're going to do is start stripping this bike. Now, I've never really liked this new frame that we've swapped over. There are a lot of issues with it. Number one being the key doesn't even fit in the hole, which is up here. Number two is, well, as you can see, it's just a bit too high, and overall there's just a lot of things which I'm not really a fan of with this frame. Maybe because we swapped it over from the other bike, like this for example is a crazy feature. So I think overall this frame's definitely got potential, but just not with the bike that we're using or the parts that we used from the other frame, which is why part of the reason why we're swapping over this frame. Then we are going to have a build with this frame as well, so we're going to have two bikes in this garage as well, which is going to be pretty sick. Let's start with the stripping. So first I'm going to remove the fuel tank from the frame, which means we can now get to all the electrics a lot better. And then I had to remove off all the wires off of the frame, which is a bit confusing as some of the screws just didn't really want to turn. It was a bit hard, but in the end I did get that, and then I managed to take off the swing arm. Right, so now that we've taken off well, pretty much everything except from the bolt, this whole swing arm can be removed without taking any of the brake or even the wheel off, as this is going to go onto the other frame, wherever that is. We seem to have lost it, but we're going to put all of that rear end on and basically the whole bike. So now I've got to remove the swing arm bolt. Now I did have a bit of trouble with this, so I had to get out the drill, and that made it easy. So now we've got the full rear swing arm off, and now all that's left of the bike is the front end. So we're going to remove the front wheel next, I think, and then we can really sort of try and take the engine out, which is always the hardest part. But yeah, let's get into it. So taking off the front wheel was quite easy. It's just one bolt. Right. Now is the task that everybody hates, removing the engine. There's not really a way of doing this, to be honest. I think it's just we've got to try and get it out, and then we're going to put it into the new frame. Let's crack on. So to be honest, removing these two first bolts was actually a lot easier than I first imagined, as last time I cut my hand open. Right, so we've undone the engine from the frame. Now we're going to see if it comes out. So all we've got to do, it should be quite light now, to be honest. And I'm sort of, it's going to come off quite easily. It's quite heavy for, those forks are quite heavy to be fair. But the engine is now off. Now, a second engine. We've got this second engine here, which we could put into this frame, as we got the forks on it, which means we'd have a full bike, whilst we still got this frame, the old frame, which you can stick in the original engine. Now this engine doesn't run yet, I believe. I haven't even tried it, to be honest. But we could essentially put this into that, as we got the bolts there for the mounts. All we got to do is take off the pedal mounts off of this engine, and then we just have to get some new ones for the other bike. So I think that's what we're going to do. So to be honest, all we got to do out of this engine is take off these 3 bolts. There should be 4, but one's missing. So I don't know, it looks like it's not a 17 at all. It's probably a 13, I imagine. So where's the 13? Right, so we got 13. Yeah, it is a 13. So all it's going to be is these 3 bolts here that are holding on this engine now. And I think as well we can take out this oil. That'd probably be a smart idea, to be honest. So the bolts on this engine was actually really tight. However, I did manage to get them off in the end, which was actually not that difficult, to be honest. And then all we had to do was swap it over, like I said, and then we would have the engine ready to fit inside the bike. Now we can put this engine into this frame. Right, so I've got the engine in. But now it's the part of doing everything up. Honestly, this thing, trying to get this in, we're going to need all the new electrical wires as well, because these are finished. But overall, we've got the bike, the engine in, and it's a tiring job. Just to say the least, but I don't know if this will go in. Yeah, so that goes in. Now all we've got to do is do up these bolts. So, engine is now in. With the engine in, I can now put on the rear swing arm. Now this was a bit of a challenge because I couldn't find a bolt which was long enough for the suspension, so I took out the top one thinking that would be longer, but that didn't work. So then I had to hunt around the garage and I finally found one that was long enough. Right, so a lot of work later, and I have now fitted in the rear swing arm, the engine, and now all that's left is the wheels for now. We're going to swap over the bars and maybe put another exhaust on this. We've got an exhaust up there, and we're going to take off these plastics. Then we're going to fit on some sort of just like transport wheels. They're just like tiny pit bike wheels, so we're going to stick them on for now, if I can find any bolts, just to make it easier to transport around the garage. And then it should be done, and then we can start working on the other frame. But first, I'm going to have lunch. Right, so next part is we're going to be removing these handlebars, and up here by the exhausts, I do actually have an old pair of handlebars. So as you can see, it's not in the best condition. I'll just give it a quick tidy up, and then we can swap over these. I think they're straight, like straight enough. We can swap over these for this one, which will be done on the other bike. So here I'm removing the original handlebars which are going onto the other bike. Now I'm trying to be careful of the needle on the end of the throttle cable which goes into the carb. Right, so we fit these bars on now. They fit nicely, they're just a bit rusty, but they're due for now. Next we're going to fit on both the wheels, and then we're going to see what else we can do. I've got some spare plastics because I don't want to use these ones, so we're going to take off these plastics as well. We're going to see what plastics I've got in the bag, and then hopefully we can make some plastics out of it, then stick them on. Now I also had to remove the front fenders. Now I'm fitting on this tiny wheel. This made it a challenge to fit. Now we're going to stick the axle screw back in. It's really odd because there's no weight on the rear end, so it's kind of hard at this, to be honest, but we can't do much. And now, yeah, we do need grease on this axle, but we're not going far on this one, so we'll grease it before we take it out for a proper ride. And just going to try and obviously line this up, which is probably now just going to come up. Now try just with that. There we go. So that wheel is in, and it's now pretty much equal. Now all we've got to do is do it up with the nut, which I've also lost. Right, I'm going to do that off camera. Right, so now moving on to the rear end. Now obviously I still don't have any of the, I don't even have a spare rear wheel, which means we are going to use the rear wheel off the other swing arm. So I've just had to remove all of that stuff, and now we can now fit it on back on to this swing arm. So it's been quite tiring having to keep swapping around swing arms, but we have almost hopefully finished. But now all we're going to do is we're going to stick in the first axle here, and now I've got to remember the long side went on this side. So now we can try and drop the starting part of the axle in, the wheel I should say, in, and now we can grab the other side, and now we've got that in. Let's push it more a bit through. Now trying to get it through this last chain adjuster was a bit hard as it was slightly bent. And now the rear end is in, and just to check, yeah, the wheel slides quite nicely on here, which was a bit of a change to what I used to, but so now the rear is on, and yeah, it seems, I'm happy with it. It's straight enough. So now I'm just going to do these up, and then we're going to get on the ground and see what it looks like. So it is now, well, it's pretty much all I can do today. I don't think there's anything really else I can do. I fitted on an exhaust. I fitted on a seat for now. I have found plastics, but I don't have any of the screws, and I don't want to take them off these nice red plastics. I'm going to need to order some bits. I think all this wiring down there, it looks pretty finished. So I don't know if I can just replace these wires in here. I'll see, and then maybe we can just get a whole new wiring. So we also need another East CDI, and all these pegs and stuff, the gear lever and everything. We're going to need new stuff of that, grips of course, all of it. It's going to be a big project, this one, the other one as well, to be honest. But for now, this one is well, it's together. There's the basics of the bike. We've got the engine in. Now this is a Liffin engine, which is quite a good brand, I'm pretty sure, and these are pretty reliable. However, as I said earlier, it needs all gaskets and it just needs some overall work, and it also needs a clutch as you removed it for another bike. I've got an exhaust here as well, which fits in quite nicely. It needs a rear muffler. Well, this one does actually run like this, but it's very loud. But apart from that, pretty much it is done. So I think the next one we're going to wait till we get the other suspension, the rear suspension, and we also get the front forks exchange. And then in the next video, obviously the next video, we'll have karting at the final round of the British Championships. Then we should be back working on the pit bikes, and then again we should have a bit mix of karting and a bit of pit bikes as well. So overall, I'm actually really impressed with how this bike's turned out. So overall, I've spent £70 on all of this stuff, plus I've got loads of extras in the garage, all from Facebook Marketplace. I brought this a couple months ago now. Everything here, apart from that rear suspension, is from that job lot, which is pretty incredible, right? So that is it for today's video. As you can see, the bike is it's a bit on the shit side, but there is a lot of upgrades to come with this. Obviously we could do with a lot of new things, but overall I think it can be cleaned up quite nicely. But that is the end of today's video. Obviously next week we've got Wigan for the final round of British Car Championships. If you enjoyed this one, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.